Hey everyone, it's Carolyn. Welcome to the channel. Today I have another past life reading for you. So for those of you who clicked on this video because you were drawn to the thumbnail or the title of this past life reading, it means that there's a message for you. This is definitely something you need to hear. For those of you who watch a lot of my videos and you just clicked on this one and it doesn't really feel like it's resonating for you, I do have an entire playlist with past life readings that I'll have linked in the cards above, and you can go ahead and scroll through that until you find the past life that you feel is right for you. This is going to be a bit of a general past life message because it's meant for the collective. It's not going to be specific details, so it's going to be a little bit more vague. If you want a very detailed past life reading, you can purchase one. You can check out my Etsy shop or you can message me on Facebook or Instagram. I want to say if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe. I would love to have you part of this family. Here on this channel, I do more tarot readings like this, so I do past life readings, collective readings, and pick a pile readings to help you along your life journeys. But I also post educational videos to help you learn how to set boundaries or learn tarot a little bit better, and to help you wherever you're at when it comes to developing your own psychic abilities. My goal with this channel is to give you the tools you need to start to trust your own intuition to make the decisions in your life that is best for you. And when you're watching my videos, whether it's this video or another one, and you see a type of content you want to see more of, go ahead and give that video a thumbs up because it lets me know what you're interested in seeing. And so with all that being said, let's go ahead and start off with your past life reading. So all the cards are already laid out in front of me. You have the High Priestess, you have the World, you have the Three of Wands, you have the Five of Cups with the Hanged Man, you have the Devil, Ace of Swords, King of Wands, Four of Wands, Eight of Pentacles, and then you have the Six of Wands, Seven of Pentacles, and Seven of Cups. All three of them are grouped together. And then you have the Seven of Wands. So starting with the High Priestess card, this is indicating that in this past life you were a witch. And if you didn't use the term witch, you still had like these psychic abilities, you still were very spiritual, but you just didn't use that exact term for it. But that's definitely the energy you gave off. You had these very intense psychic abilities and you developed them very early on, and it came very innately to you. This is not something that you struggled to find. This was not something that you went your entire lifetime before you discovered you had these. No, it feels like when you were young, you knew you had these abilities, you didn't know how to make sense of them, but then as you grew up, you slowly put the pieces together and it all clicked into place for you. It feels like you had a very powerful, intimidating energy and aura around you, and not everyone like that. You are this High Priestess, and so people, if they knew you were a witch, they went to you for help. And for those of you where you weren't able to let people know, you had this vibe where people still went to you for help, for assistance. And in a way, I sense this created enemies for you. I'm sensing some of you, you grew up in an environment where this was very taboo, and to have these abilities was not good at all, and people really had it out for you. And for others of you, you had people who wanted to have your spiritual abilities, be envious of you. This created conflict in your life, not because of the way you lived your life, it's because of simply who you were. You had this very intimidating energy, and therefore it made people take notice of you, and that left you very vulnerable to other people's gossip and opinions and their own biases against you. And it feels like in this past life, like you were very confident and secure with who you were. This was not something that you ever really struggled with, even though it might not have been what everyone agreed with. You still were authentic to who you were. And so if you had to hide your abilities, you weren't hiding them willingly. You weren't hiding them because you were ashamed of who you were. You were frustrated that you couldn't be authentic to who you were. So there was never a moment in which you tried to conform. It was definitely resistance, rebellion, energy inside of you. And it feels like in this past lifetime, you were very in tune with the feminine energy. Now, you had the masculine energy as well. And so this isn't saying what gender you were, but the feminine energy is the subconscious. It is the occult. I'm sensing a lot of 12th house placements for you in this past life. You were very much in sync with the mysteries of life, and that was the energy you gave off to people. It's like you had this wisdom, you would help people, but yet you were also very alluring, you were very mysterious, and people did not always like that, because when you have an enemy who is mysterious, not that you were trying to be their enemy, but in their mind they created you to be this villain. So here you had this person that you dislike, you distrust, and they're mysterious. You can't get a read on them. That makes that person even more afraid. And so it's like because of your existence, because of who you were, you had a target on your back because other people didn't like who you were. And so it never phased you, it never knocked your confidence, but it did create challenges that you had to deal with. it feels like there was a lot of judgment from others in this past life. And you have the World card. So the World card is indicating to me that you grew up in a very affluent environment. It feels like you were very well taken care of. You had the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. So you grew up in this very authoritative role in your life, or you came from a very wealthy background who had a lot of power and influence over the place that you live. And so not only were you yourself this very powerful person, you came from this very powerful, intimidating atmosphere and this world that you lived in. And that also is what opened you up to enemies, because you had a lot of egos around you. You had a lot of people who I feel weren't happy with how self-assured, confident, independent you were. And so it definitely feels like there's this rebelling energy inside of you in this past life where it's like you did not fit the status quo of the role that you were supposed to be. I think a lot of people expected, because of your family or the role that you fit in society, for you to, you know, be very comfortable with your life. They expected you to maybe not be the most selfless person, but they were expecting you to fit more of the standard. They were expecting you to be more timid, a little bit less vocal with things, and to just let things happen and only care when it's affecting you. And I feel like your energy was not that at all. You have the Three of Wands here, and the phrase that first hopped into my head when I saw this card is that you did not know how to keep your nose out of trouble. And I feel like that was something that a lot of people said to you in this past life. You definitely went ahead and looked into things even if you shouldn't have necessarily. You are not someone where you would be okay with not receiving answers. So you had a very curious mind, and I think that got you into trouble because it made you see things about others that they didn't want you to see. And I think this is also, like, I'm sensing you had a lot of enemies, or you had one enemy who just like was obsessed with you and like couldn't let things go, because it feels like you would gain so much answers and knowledge, not only because you had a curious mind, but because you had these psychic abilities. You just innately knew things, and you weren't afraid to go looking for things, because the mysteries, the occult, the darkness, the scary things that most people would run away from, that didn't scare you. So it's like you had these people in your life who didn't like who you were, what you were doing, the way you were living your life, but they couldn't steer you away because they didn't have a way to scare you. They didn't have a way to make you give up. It's like you were very persistent, you were very determined in this past life, and people did not like that. It really feels like you were in tune with the occult, and you were always looking to grow, you were always looking to learn. When you didn't know something, you would research it. Like, you didn't take no for an answer. And so, like, not only is that when it comes to like learning skills, developing your psychic abilities, that's why you were able to develop them, because you just kept trying, you kept getting up. Nothing would knock you down in this past life. And so because you just had this very curious, persistent, determined energy, you would just keep going after things, not taking no for an answer. And if someone tried to get in your way, that wouldn't stop you. That would make you look more at this person and question, what are they hiding? What are they doing? What do they not want you to know? And so it feels like you were able to expose a lot of things going on, and people did not like that. And that's why you literally had the keys to the kingdom, because you knew everything. Whether it was because you went out and you found the answers, or because you psychically understood it and you had that downloaded to you, you knew everything, and people could not keep stuff from you. They could not hide stuff from you. You knew what was going on. And you have the Devil card here. In this past life, you were able to manipulate people. And the reason for this is that you were so good at picking up on people's energies and knowing the truth of the matter and knowing where to cut them, that you could use that against someone. It's like you could see someone's weakness and use that to your advantage. It's like you knew everyone's Achilles heel. And so in this past life, I think you were able to manipulate people into freeing themselves. And I think that is a little counterintuitive, but I think you realized that you were gonna have a hard time fighting everyone if that's the way you approached it. So instead of looking like you were fighting them, instead of looking like you were this rebel, you kind of played the game to fit in while breaking it from the inside. It's like you allowed yourself in this past lifetime to become someone who's like super calculated and cold and very conniving, but you used it for good. And I think in this past life, when it comes to your own karma and the things that you did, It's like the lines are very blurry because you lived in the gray zone. Your life was the gray zone. You helped people, but the way that you helped them was by you tapping into your darkness, because you have the devil card here. So it's like you would manipulate people if that meant that you could then help more people by manipulating that one person. And it also feels like you had a very tough love approach. In this past life, it does not feel like you were warm and fuzzy. You were very curious and you were very psychically gifted. But when it comes to helping people, you were very callous because you were doing it for their own good. It's like you taught people how to build up and gain this own strength within them by pushing them. So you weren't gonna coddle them. You're not gonna help them in this loving, nurturing way. You're gonna force them to face the facts. And so I'm gonna try and explain this the best I can. It feels like in this past life, you would go and you would manipulate certain people in order to then lead you to other people that you could actually help. So it's like you would gain the trust of the people who had more status, more authority, more power than you. And then you would go to pretty much all the people beneath them. So this feels like you were going to more the everyday people, the people who kind of work for the company, the middle class, so to speak, and you would go to them and you would teach them through tough love what they're doing that's keeping themselves trapped. Because it's like you were freeing people, but in order to free them, in order for them to see what they're doing of their own accord, you had to force them to face their truths and to not coddle themselves, not protect themselves, to accept what they were doing. And that's why you were very controversial with what you were doing, because you sought out truth. And people didn't like it because you weren't just telling people, hey, you're trapped and it's because of this person. It's like you weren't giving them a bad guy. You were looking at every situation with nuance. And while there might have been an overarching person to blame, you also would have them take accountability for themselves. It feels like you were extremely wise. You were very smart in this past life. And again, you have the Ace of Swords here. Again, this goes to this feeling of you not being the most nurturing person, but you got results. The Ace of Swords, this is breakthroughs. And in this past life, you showed people the truth. That's how you were rebellious. You allowed people to see the truth that was going on in their own life, and sometimes having to accept that they were the ones doing the things that hurt them. And I think a part of this was the fact that you were a witch. And so you were practicing witchcraft. This isn't just, you had psychic abilities and, maybe a little bit clairvoyance saying that's about it, and you had these visions. No, this was something you were practicing. You had the rituals set up. You were doing them. You knew exactly what you were doing because you practiced this. And so in part, what you were trying to get people to do is become authentic in their own lives and teach people witchcraft and teach them their own psychic abilities and help them develop their gifts. You were so a part of the occult and you were leading other people to it. And that's where this form of manipulation falls into play, because you did have to deal with certain people who had a lot of mental blocks, who were afraid of it. And you had to get into their head and think like them in order to teach them that it's not something they have to fear. They're the ones who put the chains around themselves and called it the devil and allowed themselves to be weighed down by it. And so you had to teach people how to overcome that. But by doing so, you kind of pushed them into a corner. And I think the way you did it with your own approach, because you seemed like you didn't have this very friendly energy, it feels like you made them face the truth of how they were living their lives and what was going on and what was going wrong in their life. And then you taught them how to fix that with witchcraft. It's like you taught them what they could do to create a better lives for themselves that they hadn't been doing because they were blocked to it. And with the Four of Wands here, it's almost giving me like secret society vibes. It's like you were the leader of the occult where you were. You were in charge, you were in control, you were extremely powerful. But not everyone was aware of it, because it was so taboo, because people did not like that. And I think when it comes to the King of Wands here, you had a lot of enemies, or you had a big enemy, and unfortunately they did lead to your death. And it feels like it was sabotage, and it feels like this was something that you never got justice for. It feels like this person wasn't caught. It feels like what they did was never proven to be malicious. It feels like when it comes to your death, it was the opposite of your life, because your entire life you always got answers. That's what your life was about, seeking the truth, finding answers, knowing things. And it feels like there was sabotage in your life that led to your death, and the person never received justice for it. You feel like they got away with it. And that frustrates yourself so much. And I think that's a block that you have carried into this lifetime, and you haven't even been fully aware of it because you didn't know where it stemmed from. And I think that's why a lot of you have this dark side to yourself that you can't explain, in which you know how to manipulate, in which you want to be vengeful, in which you want to be someone's karma, in which you know exactly what to do to hurt someone, to cut them deep. And it's not like you act on it in this current lifetime, but you have the ability to tap into that dark side of you. And that's because you've never let this situation go. Energetically, this still haunts you. You're still so frustrated that this person got away with it. And it's so disappointing to you. And I get the sense that it also blocks you when it comes to your witchcraft abilities in this lifetime, when it comes to your psychic abilities and your spiritual gifts, because you have the 8 of Pentacles here. So it's like you're putting in all this hard work, but it feels like when you came into this current lifetime of yourself, the trauma from that past lifetime made you so afraid to be authentic in this one. It made you put a lot of walls up and a lot of guards, because remember, in this past lifetime, you were a very cold and calculated person, and you had good intentions with it, but you neglected yourself from having true connections and kinships with people. And so a lot of the people in your life, yes, you loved them, you cared about them, but it was very guarded love. It was very guarded relationships. And so you never fully let anyone in. You didn't let them fully see who you were. And so when you came into this lifetime, with how hurt you felt that the truth was never found, you then carried that guilt with you into this lifetime, where it made you afraid to be who you are, to tap into your psychic abilities, because you've associated that lifetime with the negativity. And so because of how authentic you were, and because of how much you linked into the occult, you equated doing witchcraft, having these psychic abilities, with leading to unfairness in your lifetime. You've equated being authentic and true to who you were to being something bad that's only going to hinder you, only going to hurt you. And so for those of you where you are trying to develop your psychic abilities, you're going to have to work harder than most. In this past lifetime, it came innate, it came easily to you. That's not the case in this lifetime. It does not mean that you don't have these abilities. It means you are so blocked off, you need to heal this inner wounds in order for you to move on. Because in this past lifetime, you didn't feel vindicated, you didn't feel like justice was served. In this current lifetime, you've carried that with you. And it makes you extremely harsh on people, and it makes you take things farther than you need to, because you can't let it go, because you do feel so hurt. And so when people cross your boundaries, it makes you rain down hell on them in a sense, because it's bringing you back to this energetic trauma in which someone didn't get their justice. So you feel in this lifetime like it's your responsibility to bring justice to people. And something you have to realize is that when you are working with the occult, when you are doing witchcraft, when you are, psychically gifted, it's not your responsibility to be karma. Karma exists. Justice, if it didn't happen in that past lifetime, doesn't mean it won't happen in their next lifetime. There's so much going on energetically, and you don't necessarily have the whole story. No matter how gifted you are, you don't have to be that person's judgment. You don't have to be their karma. The universe will sort itself out. Sometimes you just got to give it time. And so when it comes to people in this lifetime who hurt you, don't roll over and just let people take advantage of you. But once you remove yourself from the situation, you don't have to insert yourself again to be their karma. Take that responsibility off your shoulders, because it's something that you carry, and it's something that you don't need to carry forth. It's something that only weighs you down because it puts too much burdens on yourself, and it's making you too focused on how to be everyone's karma instead of focusing on what you can do to develop your own abilities. It distracts from you. And advice that your past self wants your current self to know is the 7 of Wands here. And this literally indicates you have carried so much energetically. You have all these demons to fight, you have all these challenges to overcome. And part of what you need to do to face them is to tap into this inner darkness of you. Not in the sense where you're vengeful, in the sense where you're trying to be other people's karma, but in the sense where you're comfortable being in the dark, where you're comfortable standing in these flames. And by being in it, accepting it, you're learning how to survive there. And then all of a sudden, when someone goes to pull you back down into that place, you're not afraid. Right now, it's like you take on so much responsibility, you try and do so much for yourself, and then when you feel like something's not going your way, you fight it, you resist it, because you're trying to hold on to what you have. And your past self wants you to understand, like, hey, the darkness isn't the issue. The issue is taking it too far, putting too much on your plate. But everyone needs a balance in their life. You need the light and you need the dark. And so understanding the dark, understanding your own potential is okay. Don't resist things because you're afraid that you won't have any self-control. You will have control. You just need to trust yourself. Because with the Six of Wands, Seven of Pentacles, and the Seven of Cups, this is indicating that in this lifetime, you're meant to be extremely successful. You're meant to gain public attention too. Because the Six of Wands is public recognition. The issue with it is making the decisions that will lead you there. This lifetime, you're meant to figure out what you can do to be authentic and to help people and no longer hide it. This lifetime, you're meant to be vulnerable and let people in. The analogy I'm hearing, it's like that past life was the darkness. This lifetime is the light. And by achieving this destiny, you're going to understand how to balance the two. That's what feels like lacking in this lifetime. You need to learn how to balance them. And that's what you struggle with, is you feel like you can't, you feel like you won't. You carry a lot of guilt. That's the main thing I'm sensing that you've taken from that past lifetime into this lifetime. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt and responsibility and burdens that you placed on yourself that makes it hard for you to make a decision. You might be a little bit indecisive, or when it comes to decisions, it's like you can make them, but then you're like, oh my God, was that correct? It's like you stress yourself out about it because you feel like you're gonna make a mistake. And this is such a different energy than who you were in this past lifetime, where you would just go head first into things, worry about the consequences afterwards. You were so curious then, and it's like you've lost that because you feel like being curious is something to be ashamed of. You're afraid of failure. You don't know how to pick yourself back up anymore. You've lost that ability. You're so afraid. And something that your spirit guides want you to understand when it comes to developing your psychic abilities and tapping back into this energy of who you once were and becoming authentic is you don't need to be as afraid as you think, because in this past lifetime, yes, you were very cold, isolated. You didn't have a lot of relationships in your lives, or a lot of close relationships, because it was hard for you to let people in. But it feels like there was one person in this lifetime where either you were very close and then they died, or it's like you energetically, like through mediumship, connected with this person. But it feels like you were connected with this person who passed away, their energy in this past lifetime. And they became very attached to you. They became someone who was even a part of your own spirit team. They were watching out for you, and they were really admiring everything that you did. And I think the reason for it is because they too didn't get everything they wanted out of life. And so they saw you being so unapologetic about who you were. They saw you being so confident. And it feels like in a way you helped them. I think you were able to reach out to their family in some sort of way, or if this was someone you knew prior to them passing, you had been close to them, as close as you could have been with someone. And so when they passed, it was very difficult on you, but you were able to reach out to them with your psychic abilities, and so they just kind of stayed a part of your life. It feels like they never fully like crossed over because they were always with you. And it feels like in this current lifetime, they carried over with you. And so it's like they waited for you, and now they're here with you, and it feels like this person is super important to you in this current lifetime. And it feels like they're going to be along for the ride when it comes to your success. And so like part of your fear is like you're going to lose the people in your life. They're going to be taken away from you, but they're not. Like this person has stuck with you. Even once they died, their energy and yours was connected, that you ended up in the next lifetime together. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of guilt stemming from this past life. But in your current lifetime, you're meant to learn how to understand the fear and how to take it and control it, where you're then not letting it hold you back. Because it's not going to be that simple to not feel the fear, but it's okay to feel it as long as you don't let it control you. And right now you're letting it control you. That's why you needed this message. lean into this dark side. And I feel like a lot of you doing meditations to heal this inner trauma would be extremely beneficial, because it's like you have to learn to accept the darkness in order for you to balance it with the light. And by doing that, you can let go of all your fears. You can just make the choices you need to make and just follow it one step at a time until you achieve the success. This past life, you were hidden. You were authentic, but you were hidden. And in this lifetime, you're more public, but you're less confident. You're not as authentic. And so in order for you to heal from this past life, in this lifetime, you need to find a way to be authentic like you were, but be public about it. That's what's missing. And it feels like that's what you're destined to do in this lifetime. It's just going to take a lot of hard work. You're not blocked permanently. It's not that you can't ever develop this. It's that you have to be extremely mindful and deliberate with everything you're doing. It's not going to happen overnight for you. And I know that's frustrating because you see other people, it happens overnight for them. And when it comes to like even your past self energy, it happens so quickly. So something must be wrong with you. You must be cursed. It's never going to work, and so you should just give up. That's the mindset you're going with right now. But that's not true. The abilities are there, and they're going to work. You just have to put in more work for it too. You need to have more patience. And in this lifetime, I'm hearing you need to protect yourself more. You need to shield yourself. You need to set boundaries with people. It feels like the boundary part you got pretty well down pat, but you need to protect yourself energetically from people. That's what happened in this past lifetime. You didn't protect yourself enough. Someone was able to slip through the cracks and they sabotaged you. And it was also a hit to your ego, because you were someone where like you knew a lot of things and you missed this. And so it blindsided you. And so part of you feels guilt and shame for not seeing it, for not preparing for it. But what your own spirit guides want you to know, it's like you're human. That was bound to happen at one point. And it happened, and it's like you can't do anything about it. It's like you're holding on to the anger so much. But it's like, it's done. Like there's no way to go back and make it not happen. So you have to move on and just learn from it moving forward. Protect yourself now going forward. But you gotta learn to let stuff go, because you carry and you hold on to too much, and it's only weighing you down, and it's not helping you. It's making you have to defend yourself against everything here. And so it really feels like this past life of yours is one that was extremely powerful for you. But in turn, it created a lot of blocks, because it was very hard for you to accept. And you carry those blocks with you because it's hard for you to move on. And so in order for you to start to tap into your abilities in an easier way and allow yourself to actually fulfill your destiny, it's going to require hard work. And you have to not only work on developing your abilities, but you also need to work on forgiving yourself and teaching yourself how to move on and working on healing these blocks. I would really suggest doing a lot of meditations for you and doing your own research into how you would prefer to heal these blocks, because it definitely feels like there's a lot for you to uncover in order for you to fully move forward. And so I hope that this gave you the stepping stones you need in order to heal yourself, in order to do what you want for your life, in order to achieve this destiny. If it did help you, let me know in the YouTube comments down below. Also give this video a big thumbs up and share with others who need to hear it. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you a part of this family, and make sure you turn on that bell notification so you don't miss out when I post my next video. I'm going to have more videos of mine linked in the cards above for you to watch now. If this reading resonated and you want to leave a donation, I greatly appreciate that. It helps me make more content like this for you. Or if you want to purchase your own reading, all my links are going to be in the description box down below for you to contact me. And I can't wait to see you all in my next video. I hope you have a good one. Bye!